We would discuss current issues and calm off stormy weather. Daddy's work was his hassle. Mama made home a castle. They would protect us and make sure nothing would ever happen. Things were so simple then. Your neighbors were like in the community. Showed unity on my phones. I could depend, but it ain't like that anymore. It ain't like that. No, no, said it ain't like that anymore. Whoa, no, said it ain't like that anymore. It ain't like that. No, 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 it ain't like that anymore. It ain't like that. No, no. Back in the day, we used to hang out in these streets, playing double dutch, chunking rocks, hide and go seek. Where these cups came from, the candy lady, showing Willie 'cause he's crazy. Satisfied just holding hands, and babies were not having babies. Things were so simple then. The neighbors were like in the community, showed unity on my phones. I could depend, but it ain't like that anymore. It ain't like that, y'all. No, no, it ain't like that anymore.
I think you're trying me. I think you really trying to with me, with my money, and you gonna stand up there and look down at me like you're a woman? I'ma show you what real women do, bitch. See, you don't know what real women do. Real women sacrifice. I should have aborted your ass, cause you ain't. I know the day the doctors put you on my hand, you wasn't a thing, and you had that smirk on your face, bitch. Now smile about that. Smile about that, you fat bitch. I'ma kill you, bitch.
So from the set of a brand new late night talk show, please welcome Mooney. Mooney. Woo-hoo! Woo! Hey, baby! Everybody standing up for you.
Hotep, African family, Hotep. You are listening live to Children of Southampton radio program with your host, Sister Nefertari. We are coming to you live from 900 AM WRD, Philadelphia. Today is Sunday, November the 8th, 2009. And I had to play that clip. I just got a little head with finger shaking from my board operator. Said, we ain't supposed to play that B word. I'm sorry about that. I thought it was acceptable on TV now, so I thought it was across the board. That's my fault. WRD, don't take it out on the brother there. I didn't know I was going to play that. But it's tying right is what we're going to be talking about today, family. We started off the show today giving you a little piece by Brothers Keeper, who is no stranger to our program and our show here. Brothers Keeper out of Memphis, Tennessee, doing that song talking about it ain't like that anymore. They're talking about how we used to be able to feel safe and secure in our neighborhoods. Everybody looked out for each other. Our parents protected us, and we were able to play and have fun as children, and it's just not like that anymore. And then we went into that clip just now. That was a clip from the upcoming movie called Precious. It's going to be coming out, I think, in theaters this coming week, if I'm not mistaken, it starts. And that was shown this past Friday, that clip on Oprah Winfrey's show. And she was interviewing Monique, who was one of the main characters. She's going to play the mother. That's whose voice you heard during that clip. And it goes right into what we're going to be talking about today. Today's topic is black on black verbal violence. Negative language targets black self-esteem. And that clip, sometimes, family, we start to prepare for our shows. We're preparing them weeks in advance. And oftentimes we'll come across some information literally days, sometimes hours before the program. And it's almost like our ancestors are saying, stop the presses. You know what I mean? We may have to reconfigure the show because we have to get this information out to the family. And so we played that clip for you because it's right on point to what we're talking about. Did you hear the level of verbal violence that took place? The clip is about, I think that was about maybe 30 or 40 seconds. And in that clip, Monique's character is berating her daughter, who is the character Precious. She's calling all kind of names. I mean, literally, family, I don't know about you, but you couldn't even make out what she was saying, because almost every third word was a curse word or some type of derogatory name that she was shouting at Precious. And in the scene, I know you couldn't see it, but in the scene, Precious is standing at the top of the stairs, and Monique's at the bottom of the stairs. So Monique is shouting at Precious at the top. She all these obscenities. I should have aborted you. I should never had you. You a blank, 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 and this, that, and all kind of just an onslaught. Of verbal violence going on in that clip. But what struck me more profoundly, family, was immediately following the clip that Oprah played. This is the one that she chose to play from that movie. There was, she introduced Monique, and there was a standing ovation. You hear Oprah saying, oh, you just look at this, stand up. Everybody's giving her a standing ovation. There was a standing ovation for this so-called acting, or I don't know what you want to call it, this so-called piece that was being, there was a standing ovation by the women in the crowd, a lot of black women and men. And it kind of, it hit me to the core of my soul. I said, what are they, I mean, don't get me wrong, we love when a person can really act, and we like to, show them our gratitude for the great performance they put on, blah, 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 their acting capabilities. However, what did Monique demonstrate during that 30 seconds that was worth a standing ovation? The language was filthy. The scene was horrific. If anything, I would think the people would have been sitting there weeping. I mean, everybody would have been in tears and consoling each other because they just saw something that just was so horrific. They would have been just crying because it was so graphic. But yet they're standing and they're cheering, and Oprah's like, oh, this is a wonderful movie that everyone has to go see. And I want everybody to go out and see this movie. I encourage you all to go see it, because we've got to find out. I'm really curious as to how this thing is going to play out, because let me tell you something, family. There's a trend I've been noticing. I want to put this out there right now. It's going to go slightly off topic, but not completely. I've been noticing a trend in the last few years in the movies that are coming out, the so-called black movies or juvies that are coming out in the theaters, and they are more and more progressively pushing the image of the black woman as this monster. And if you don't believe me, let's look at a couple of movies. Do you remember the movie that came out, Pursuit of Happiness, with Will Smith? Everybody was, again, pushed to go to this movie. Go see this movie. It's a great movie. You got to see it. They talked about us. We all flocked to the theaters to watch it, and I was so excited. I wanted to see it myself. And I'm watching the movie, and the mother in the movie, the sister who was playing Will Smith's wife, I forgot the real character's the real character's name, so forgive me for that. But the sister who was playing Will Smith's wife, her role was depicted as this horrible, unbearable, unreasonable, unrealistic, unloving black woman who would literally walk away from her husband and her child and just give up everything because she didn't want to support her husband anymore, and she didn't want to help him. She was tired of, him going out and chasing after his dreams and not supporting the family, blah, blah, blah. But her character was just horrific from the opening to the scene to the last time she was, seen in the whole movie. And never throughout the whole movie did they ever bring back another black woman. They didn't say, he met another black woman, here's a good black woman he met. They never brought back an image of even a black woman who could have been a social worker that helped out, or just a friend that came along and was there for them, helping them. They never did that. So you left with the impression that the black man is all alone having to deal with these pressures and problems, and the black woman is his worst enemy. Then you had the movie The Family That Prays Together. Same situation. Sanaa Lathan. And I didn't see this movie, but I heard from a lot of people, people I hold in high esteem, gave me that basically another movie with a black woman who was portrayed as this horrible woman who was going out here and cheating on a good black man, and she's just a monster. Now you have this movie Precious, and I'm seeing the same thing unfold here with the character that Monique is playing. And literally, if you saw the Oprah Winfrey, and I could play it more, we don't have time, but I have the whole clip and the whole interview. If you saw the Oprah Winfrey interview, Monique is talking about how they wanted her to be a monster. Literally, she says that they wanted me to be a monster. So I knew I had to dig deep and come out, and I had to portray this monster person, because that's who the character was. So what I'm saying is, fam, look beyond what you're just seeing on the screen. And we've got to ask ourselves, they did this. Remember, don't forget, fam, remember what Color Purple did. What the movie The Color Purple did was, throughout the entire movie, it painted the black man as this horrible, horrific character. Everyone from Mr. to Mr's father to Mr's son, who beat on Sophia. Every black man they put in front of you in the entire movie was this horrific person. So you left the movie feeling completely sorry for the black woman and completely angry with the black man, even though the environment and the circumstances around the movie were completely fictitious, and we can go in depth about that. But they created this environment where the black man was demonized, and now what they're doing, family, is they're creating movies where the black woman's becoming demonized. What you got to ask yourself: what happened with The Color Purple? It pushed the solution to dealing with that demon of a black man was to go forth and become a homosexual, become a lesbian. That was the overall theme of the movie. What these movies are doing now with the black woman is portraying her as this horrible black woman and saying your only option is to go outside your race or go towards, so it's promoting homosexuality or miscegenation or integration as the best options for us as black people. Be very careful, family. Be very, very careful. And I know this movie that's coming up, Precious, is we're going to be dealing with some serious topics of physical violence, particularly sexual violence. I understand that, and verbal violence and all these. I understand it, so we want to pay attention to that. But also pay attention to why are these particular movies being pushed on us, though, and why are these? This is from my understanding, this is a fictitious movie. I want the family to be able to come back and report. So I'm giving an assignment out there. I want to be able to come back and report, and the family be able to call in and tell me that there was a black man in shining armor, a black knight in shining armor that emerges in this movie, or a black woman in shining, hopefully both, that something good happens and we come together in the end and we heal ourselves as a black man and a black woman. Don't let this be another movie where you walk out of that theater hating one or the other, because the end result is they want us to hate each other and continue to divide us as a family. It's been going on since slavery. Read the Willie Lynch letter. We're going to move on. Now, let me give you the call-in numbers. So I know your family, you want to call in on this topic. We're going to call-in numbers are 215-634-8065, 215-634-8065, and toll free at 866-361-0900, 866-361-0900. Now, family, we also have a special guest today who's going to be joining us, Dr. Farouk Iman. He is a psychotherapist, holistic practitioner, as well as an educator who's been doing this. He told me over 35 years. He let me know he's been doing longer than I've been on the planet. So we joked about that earlier, but this brother is deep. And we're going to be going into this. But before we go into and bringing our guest on, we're talking about black verbal violence and black on black verbal violence. And family, remember last week we talked about black on black physical violence. We want you to understand. And last week, one of the things we focused on was murder. We talked about black on black physical violence. We talked about murder. And murder is not the only type of physical violence that occurs within our community. You have rape. You have physical violence where somebody is just, or physical abuse where somebody's beating someone up. It could be a man beating up a woman beating up on a man, or them beating up on a child. You have physical assault where people are going out and robbing somebody or just beating somebody down because they stepped on their shoe and now they're beating them up. So you have different types of physical violence. But what we want to tie into, family, is what happens, because this movie is almost, you see what just happened in the clip we played earlier. Monique's character, and here's an interesting point. Monique, during her interview with Oprah, mentioned that she was abused. She was sexually molested by her older brother, Gerald, for years. And she talked about how when she played this character and she got the script, she definitely wanted to do it because it brought back a lot of memories of what she had went through. Now, the character that she's playing, Precious' mother, in that scene we played for you earlier, she's verbally abusing her daughter Precious. And Precious is supposed to be pregnant with her second child by her father, who was molesting her. Now, we look at the character that Monique is playing, the mother, and we got to ask ourselves, with there's so much venom coming from her mouth at her daughter, what happened to her Again, remember we talked about that last week, family. When you see something like this going on, when you see black people acting out these strange misbehaviors, you have got to say, what happened to that person? So we can put the chain together, begin to link the chains. We can go back to the source. Now, we understand that the character, I would be very surprised if we don't find out this coming week when this movie comes out that Monique's character, the mother, was also sexually abused or physically abused at some point. And this is why she in turn has this rage that she is in turn putting out physically and verbally to her child. And now that venom is being, that verbal abuse is being promoted or pushed on to Precious' character, the character Precious. Now she in turn is going to do what? Think about the psychological, the mental violence that's occurring now in her mind. What is she going to see? She's obese. Okay, she's taking it inward, and the psychological, her mind is interpreting that, and she's now causing self-destruction, internally destroying herself. Family, it's a chain. We're going to be talking about that next week. Black on black psychological violence. So it's a chain we're building for you here, but it all goes back. We understand that these are misbehaviors that we are promoting. It all goes back to racism, white supremacy. We cannot forget that. When you start to link these things and you go back and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the problem, you understand that this started out, a lot of these problems happened to us and began to materialize after or during slavery. When we were used and we were treated as animals, we were bred. You had black men who were forced to have sex with their own daughters and granddaughters to produce other children. Incest, molestation. You had, what did that do to that black man's mind? What did that do to the child's mind who grows up and finds out that I am the product of my father molesting, I'm the product of my father molesting his daughter? What goes through the psychological, what is this, what connection do we have? We talked about a few weeks ago when we talked about, the Ma'afa and being on the slave ships. What is the effect of us being in those slave ships for months at a time, chained to our ancestors who were dying next to us? What type of psychological warfare is going on there that is being passed down to us through generation to generation to generation to generation? So that now today, all we can say is, we have black on black violence. There's another black man that's doing it. There's another black woman that's doing that. You don't lie to yourself and tell yourself that, family. You better be able to tie this thing back to racism, white supremacy. I want to talk about the N-word for a second. And then we're going to bring on our guests. The N-word, we talked about that in depth on our show. We even had one show. We went all into it. But family, I want to put another challenge out there. Because I want somebody out there, because I don't know it. I want somebody out there in the black family to find me another people of color on this planet Earth that have taken a derogatory term and embraced it as the preeminent word that describes themselves. I'm not just talking about your lower income aspect of the society that uses it, or a particular. I'm talking about we got people who in the hood that use the N-word, and we got our PhD so-called educated black folk out there to use the N-word, the ones making six figures. We got those out there who are billionaires using the N-word to describe ourselves. We embrace it. It's a term of endearment. Name me another people that do that. I put the challenge out. You ain't got to call in today. Call in and you go out and do the research, because I don't know it. Maybe, and I don't know everything. I put that statement out there. I don't know everything. So name me somebody that does it. We're going to take a couple of callers. One caller here we have on the line, Brother Maurice out of West Philly. Brother, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. How you doing?
Hotep family, how are you?
All right, Hotep. I just wanted to make a comment on the roles or characters that we play. I was just kind of, I heard you say something like, you were talking about the character of Mister on Color Purple and stuff like that. Like, for me, I think that it's not really the characters that we need to cut out, because we need to see the evil and the dirty characters that we have in our community on screen. I think that there should be balance. So if you have a Mister, you got to have a great character like Malcolm on the screen as well. It's not a matter. I don't think it's a matter of just cutting off, not airing our dirty laundry, or not showing our problems. It's a matter of making it balanced. You can't keep showing negative characters on the screen. You need to show the positive characters as well. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%, brother. And that's pretty much what we were saying earlier.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard that it was just like we didn't want to see those kind of characters at all on the screen. That's why.
Oh no! I'm sorry if it came across that way, because it may have. You may have come across that way. So no need to apologize.
Oh, okay.
What we're trying to put forth is what you just said. We mentioned earlier. We're talking about where is the black knight in shining armor,
right,
that comes along and says, "I'm going to save you, Celie, from Mister." And Celie goes off and lives happily ever after. What does Celie do in the end of The Color Purple? She goes off with Suge and Suge's husband. She don't go off with a new man who come around and save the day. So we're talking in the pursuit of happiness. The brother had the wife who, those are situations where the black man and the black woman are having problems. They can't get along. But where's that black queen that comes along and says, hey, brother, I'm going to be here. I'd love to help you raise your son and raise particularly in these films where we have the control. Some stories we understand are factual, so we have to tell the story as it happened. But then you have other situations where we can change the outcome. So these situations that are fictional, these stories that are fictional, we can change the outcome.
Right.
So I agree with you 100%, brother.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for your call. Please call in again.
All right.
Okay, we're going to now go to our guest today. We have the Dr. Farouk T.N. Iman, Ph.D. And we know this brother against the N-word. He's an educated brother, but he is not one of these educated Negroes running around here. We know this for a fact. Look, this brother has done some serious research, and we are excited to have him in our studios. Hotep, brother, how are you today?
Hotep, Sister Nefertari, and Hotep to your listeners and your callers in. Glad to see the brother come in, call in and ask for a little bit of clarification, and that's what we hope, that people will call in and do their own research. There is a preponderance of evidence and research out there about not only the glory of Africa and African Americans and Africans throughout the history, but the whole legacy of our coming into being. And as you have said probably many times, we are not only the builders of civilizations, but we started humankind. So everybody has come from us.
That's right.
Everybody has come from us. So, and we taught the world not only the sciences and humanities and how to heal, but what it means to be human. Mm-hmm. So it is our job now to reteach that, because we have forgotten. Another group has taken that away from us and taught us how to be inhuman to each other. So we have to regain that. That's
right, brother. Now tell us about what you do and what you've been doing in the community. Who are you? What are you all about?
Well, you said much of it. I'm an African-centered psychologist, holistic practitioner, and educator. I got my PhD at Temple right here in town. And I'm a member of several community groups. I was with Freedom Theater for a long while, and several other community groups. I'm a member of the Association of Black Psychologists and the local group here, the Delaware Valley Association of Black Psychologists, as well as a Pan-African group called the International Movement for the Improvement of Pan-African People. So I'm not going to run down all the things, but what is interesting, I got my introduction to activism and cultural naturalism from one of our legendary ancestors, Fannie Lou Hamer. And we did, while I was in undergraduate school, we did voter education and registration in Mississippi. And that was truly an education.
Wow, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm certain that it was, brother. And in your dealings with individuals, we were talking earlier, and you said, you give sessions to brothers and sisters who are victims of violence, whether that be sexual or physical. And I'm certain that you hear, in a lot of your research, you're hearing some of them go back to perhaps some verbal violence that they suffered.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned several films and media contexts that depict us. And one of my good friends has a wonderful African saying. It says that the lion's story will never be told or told correctly as long as the hunter is telling the story. Right. So in all the films that you mentioned, whether we had, it's only a handful of films that we have really complete control over. And even if we do have complete control, let's look at Sankofa, for example. What was the problem with Sankofa? Distribution. Mm-hmm. So it only played in one theater, in one city, at a short period of time.
That's right.
You see, so one thing that we must remember is that not only do we have to produce, but we go from beginning, from the copy boy all the way through the producer and the disseminator. Unless we control that, right, then we're always at the disadvantage of the other folks. One of the things that I ask my clients is, who are you? And, they always talk about interpsychic phenomena and the lives or characteristics. And, I'm sad, I'm glad, I'm happy, I'm whatever, and which is very important to know something about that. But very, very rarely do they talk about their ancestors. Mm-hmm. Very, very rarely I'm a African person. They very rarely talk about culture and their ancestors as if they don't exist, as if that's not part of them. And it is. It's a very integral and important part of them. But we've been miseducated to believe that it's not part of us. We've been pulled up. We pulled our own selves up our bootstraps, and I did this, I did that, and there's no such thing as I. We are collective beings. That a male and female came together to produce us. We were educated. We were educated around other people. We learned from other people. We read books and that sort of thing. When we go to work, more than likely, we were going to work around other people and learn from other people. So everything that we are, or think that we are, we have learned from other people. So everybody who's contributed to our not only learning, but to our spiritual being is part of who we are. So we are a collection of various spirits and various people.
So if someone, like in the clip that we played earlier, where Monique's character is berating her daughter with all types of profanity and derogatory words and names, you're hearing that on a regular basis. What effect does that have on your spiritual and your physical well-being?
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that we stress is that word, you heard the old cliche, sticks and stones will break my bones, yes, but words will. It's actually just the opposite. I can remember the first person called me the N-word, when, where, what time, what day, what year. I could describe what he was wearing.
Tell us, go ahead. Tell us the story. We always find it interesting to hear these stories.
Right. It was in college, and we went to another college for their homecoming. And, and the person said, we don't serve N's here.
This is a white
person, yes. Mm-hmm. And, my foot was across the counter, get ready. But luckily, I had a friend there. He says, "No, it's time for us to leave. We're outgunned and outmanned. It's time for us to go."
Okay.
Yeah, and he probably saved my life, because I was not accepting of that term and that sort of thing. What happens is that not only does it demean and derogatize our spirit. If you may have seen this, Sister Nefertari, that a young mother or father in a supermarket or department store cussing the child out,
yes,
5, 6 years old, like they're a grown person. And you can almost see the light in the child's eyes go out. They start crying, they start, or sometimes they just stand there in silence and just start weeping. But the light in the eyes go out and diminish. They might not know exactly what they're saying, but they know what they're saying is not good. And that the epithets that they're using are demeaning and derogatizing the spirit. To take it further, talking about the physical aspects, what we have found out through research is that racial epithets and negative words heighten our blood pressure, are precursors to stroke, heart attack, and cancer. You see, we don't understand the actual interplay between mind, body, and spirit, but we know it's there.
So it's not just, because a lot of times we want to blame it on the soul food. It's just not just the soul food we eat. And it can also be the verbal language the language is coming at us verbally that we are taking and our bodies absorbing in
Exactly, because if you think about those what we call pro-inflammatory diseases, cancer, stroke, heart attack, and that sort, they take years and years to develop.
Yes,
you just don't come up overnight. Oh, I got heart. No, it takes years and years. So you're thinking about not only the so-called traditional soul food, which is damaging us, and the standard American diet, actually named SAD,
Right.
damaging our bodies and our spirits, but the verbal assaults, and sometimes physical assaults, as you were talking about probably last week, it takes a toll. It's like your body, your spirit, your immune system will try to hold up as long as it can, but after a certain point, it says, "I've had enough."
That's right.
And then diseases and all kinds of depression and anxieties and all kinds of other illnesses occur. And that's what the body says, "I've had enough. I can no longer fight this assault that's been happening to me." So
now you've broken down for us the physical effects of hearing the use of derogatory terms, and particularly the N-word. Let's focus on that, the N-word. Can you tell us why is it that we as black people have this problem with ending the use of the word altogether? Why is it that I can go out here in the hardest hardcore part of the city and hear young people who are drug dealers on the corner, gang members on the corner using the N-word all day, but I can also go and have a dinner with your maybe a CEO, a black woman, a black man who's a CEO of a major Fortune 500 company. They, so-called very educated, making six figures. They live out in, the county, the burbs, a big old house. And they're using the N-word too, just all day, every day. Why? And they're not just using it in a derogatory sense, but they're also using it as a so-called term of endearment. Mm-hmm. What have you found as a reasoning behind that?
Well, Malcolm told us. He says, "I've been called the N-word so often, I thought it was part of my name." It's been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. And I'm reminded to kind of supplement, you talk about films, the 5 Heartbeats. I remember Eddie King Jr. coming home from a date with Baby Doll. And his mother and father sitting there on the stoop, which was a positive. It was mom and pop, And the pop said, no, the mama said, "Oh yeah, you're doing good. I like you singing in the group and all that sort of thing." Pop stood up over him. He said, "You ain't gonna be sugar, honey, iced tea." And mom chimed in, said, "Why would you say something like that? You act like you don't love him." I said, "I love that boy, but he ain't gonna be sugar, honey, iced tea because I ain't sugar, honey, iced tea." Take that back to another generation, to Eddie K. Jr.'s grandfather and great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather and so on and so forth. There's an old Bantu saying that says, "We are a seed of a seed. We are a seed of a seed of a seed. Mm-hmm. We are a seed of a seed," and so forth, back to the beginning of time or back to the beginning of human civilization. And what that says is that if you plant the seed of, like Billy Lynch, if you plant the seed of negative behavior, it will self-perpetuate almost ad infinitum. So if you do it long enough and produce media, produce anything that will perpetuate that, then people will believe it. As we were discussing before, the true definition of power is that to get somebody to believe your beliefs or ideas as if they were their own. And that's what has happened to us. We have inculcated, adapted, and tried to turn things around. Like we try to turn pig guts around to chitlins as a delicacy. But it don't work because we're getting sick from that.
Right.
It's the same thing with the N-word, the B-word, the H-word, and all profanity.
But if we don't understand, just like we talk about chitlins, when we understand that, a young person today who might be, 11, 12 years old, eating chitlin, they think it's great. It's good. It's something, my mama makes really nice, really good. But when they understand that this wasn't something that was part of our culture, it's something that we did out of a sense of survival. It was never, it was never something that was that we brought from our motherland or that we embraced. We did it because it kept us alive.
Right.
Then you can kind of pull away from it and say, "Oh man, this wasn't something that was good for me. It wasn't something that was meant to be good for me." But yet, when we talk about the N-word, I get these debates from people who say, I say this wasn't something that was good for us. It wasn't something that was, regardless of the fact that our ancestors may have used it for whatever reasons. Maybe that was, it just, they were on slave plantation, and that's how master referred to everybody. So it just became, like you said, that's my part of my name. But now we understand it wasn't good for us. It wasn't something that was healthy for us. We've got to make a switch to say, I'm not going to indulge in this misbehavior anymore. We've got to make a decision as a collective, as a people, to end this misbehavior. And I don't see that happening. I get people who want to talk about, there's a river in Africa, the Niger River, and, we were once called the Naga people, in East Africa. All these kind of, I'm sure you've heard them, brother.
Sure.
And all I'm saying is, it's ridiculous, when I look, I don't, like I was saying a minute ago, I don't know of any other people who use a word in their culture that has been used to demean it. And I know that racism, white supremacy is all over the planet. It's not just affecting us as black people, but you have people in Asia, women in Asia, who are getting surgery to take out the slants in their eyes. You have women in India who are dyeing their hair blonde and their eyebrows blonde, and you have people all over the world who are using bleaching cream, primarily us in quantitative sense. We're majority of people who are using it, but you have people all over the world who are using bleaching cream. So we understand that that's an effect of racism, white supremacy, and that hatred for who we are, and also trying to chase after that European standard that they're putting before the world as the standard of beauty. But the N-word, but I don't know of any people who take a word. I mean, I don't hear, Asians running around saying, "What's up, my chink?"
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't hear Hispanics running around talking, "What's up, my spick?" You don't hear this.
Right.
They don't say that that's a term of endearment. They have not taken the word and embraced it as their own and tried to defend their right to use it.
Right.
It's a sickness that we have.
It's not only that. You have to remember that in Asia, when Europeans came over there and colonized there, and the people pretty much stayed in place, so which means that they still had a culture to refer to. They had ancestors and elders in their communities to say, hey, once we get these Europeans out of here, we can reconvert or reconnect to our cultural past.
Okay.
Now, with us, we were taken out of our continent, taken over, to South America, to the Indies, and of course to North America, and of course Europe. What that means is that there's more of a chance to deculturalize. To deculturalize. See, there's nothing to go back to. You see, I'm here in London, under the London Bridge. What can I refer to? These are not the pyramids. You see, so the silly, as Pre-Mother Andy talks about, is that the whole point of it was to deculturalize people as well as miseducate and abuse and all that sort of thing. Because what do we have to grab onto? All we do now is to try to go back there and talk to the brothers and sisters there, or the brothers and sisters that are here from Africa, and try to reconnect, trying to make put the dots, connect the dots and whatnot. But it's fragmented, you see. So you have people who say, well, if they even admit that they're African American, they may admit that they're African American, but I see very few people who admit to African. Oh no, God, I don't want to.
I know my grandmother when we were growing up. I said, "Grandma, you black, you African American, you black," and she would say, "I'm not black, I'm tempestuous brown. Don't call me black." I'll never, to her older, she's still alive and she has dementia now, but she would say that. I was like, she was brown, Grandma, what the heck? But she didn't want anything, so no African or no black, nothing. And so I understand what you're saying, brother. It is a cultural, and so for me, it's the N-word, and it's also, we're talking about calling our women B's and H's all day long. We hear the brothers doing that, and now, there's a segment, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a growing segment of a so-called nationalist community of young brothers and sisters who are using the N-word. They're cursing, using a lot of profanity in the name of revolution, in the name of our freedom. And you know, for example, there's a song out there where a sister says, "I want to end like Malcolm X." And I heard this, it tore my soul apart so bad, but I had to have a whole show. I had to do a whole show literally on it because I was just destroyed. But how do you see there being any reason why someone who is considered themselves a nationalist, somebody who's standing up and saying, "I want to fight for the liberation of African people," needing to use the N-word or vulgar language to reach our people?
No, I see actually absolutely none. But I remember the last poets. Mm-hmm. Remember the famous poet,
yes, sir.
"Ends Afraid of Revolution." It was meant for shock value. Mm-hmm. And they've created a couple poems. I mean, the overwhelming majority of the poems are positive and promotes cultural well-being and health, and it tells the truth about our story. And I'm not sure why they're doing that. I'm not sure who you're referring to, but I'm not sure why they're doing it. But it only corroborates and validates, what the gangster rappers are doing, mm-hmm. what the Europeans have done in the past, and so forth. So, what they may not realize is that every time you use that word, it brings the whole baggage, legacy, and history of that concept along with it. Mm-hmm. And it actually does something to our blood, believe it or not. Now, you read it, I mean, your listeners can't see it, but Dr. Emoto, he's a Japanese researcher, mm-hmm. and what he has done is to type words on a piece of paper, mm-hmm. put them on a glass of water. Now, our bodies are like 75% water.
Yes.
And freeze them and then photograph the image or the spirit of that word as it goes through that water. I'm going to show you, but what happens is that if you say nice words, it forms very beautiful crystals, okay?
Okay.
And so, you're beautiful, you're lovely, you can do it, mm-hmm. and so forth. Mm-hmm. Turn the page, Sister Nefertari, and you see more of the same. Mm-hmm. 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 Continue to turn.
Wow.
Ah, yes.
Family, you can see these pictures as you go into these derogatory terms, mm-hmm. like you idiot, mm-hmm. and rage and murder and hate, ugly.
Yeah.
The crystals go from this pretty crystal to these, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, look at rage and murder. It almost looks like somebody's holding a gun, ready to...
Oh, wow, that's it. That's kind of spooky.
Yeah.
That is kind of spooky.
So it's more than just despiritualization of our psycho-emotional spirit. It actually does something to us physically. And we can capture it now by camera.
The information is there, family. We're not talking about speculation. That's why I wanted the doctor in, because I know he does. He's done a recent, or over time, he's done lectures. But recently, he had a lecture last month talking about the N-word and the effects of. I don't think it was just the N-word. It was just negative language in general as well, right, brother? He's talking about that, and the document. He has his research. He has his documentation. It's not just speculation, family. We're not sitting here saying just don't use the N-word, please. We just don't like it. No, that's not. We're talking about don't use the N-word because it's destroying you as a people. You're running out here and you're wondering why is the black man coming through my window robbing me in the middle of the night. You want to know why is the sister on the corner wanting to be a gangbanger, now she want to carry around a Glock 9 and she blowing out somebody's brains. This all goes back to the negative effects that our language has on each other, let alone our physical violence. Think about when you're riding in the car, family. I used to do this with my cousin. As I got older and I kind of stopped listening to hip-hop, got a little more mature and grew out of it, I would tell my young cousins, I said, think about when you listen to hip-hop when you're driving. And think about how the road rage soars through the roof. All of a sudden you find yourself, you want to cut everybody off, you're cussing out this person, you're just mad. But then put on something soft and soothing like some jazz or, some Sade or Marvin Gaye, something a little more soothing. And now you're like, I don't care if this person cut me off. Sometimes you let him go. Oh, you fool, what you doing? But you're not angry about it. You're not trying to chase him down and run him off the road. It has a direct correlation to the music. You listen to the words, kill her in, shoot her in, rape his mama, all day long. I talked last week about someone in my family who, he was a young brother, is a young brother. He has, beautiful locks, and they would say how, he looked like Lil Wayne. All the girls, he looked like Lil Wayne. He got all the girls. But he kept telling this, not her. He listened to Lil Wayne all day long. Comes from a very good family, very good background. Then next thing you know, he wants to go and rob banks. Got away with it once, got away with it twice, got away with it 3 times. But didn't stop. Keep on going because he think he a gangster now because the music's telling him he's a gangster. So don't tell me the music doesn't have an effect on you. It has an effect on you. Yes. And sometimes you think you can control it, but you can't. You wondering why am I driving? You think, it's all about the individual. The individual, if they can decide what they want to do, then tell me why you drive down the street chasing after the blue car in front of you to cut you off 20 miles back. You trying to run them off the road because the music is fueling something inside of you to conduct it. I tell people, like last we talked about black on black violence, and you can put a gun in somebody's head and pull the trigger, and physically you've murdered that person. You can murder them. But when you use the N-word, or the brother just showed it in the research, and I hope maybe we can get this and put it up on the website at some point and show the pictures to the family. But the brother just showed the data showing the effects that negative language have on you. So basically, if you are shouting the N-word, whether you think you're saying it in love and respect, or you shouting out the B word, hey, girl, you B, get over here. I see sisters do it all the time with each other, and you do, or you're calling somebody a whore or whatever. You might as well put the gun in their brain. If verbally you putting a gun in their brain, you blowing their brains out. Absolutely. Because the brother Dr. Farouk Iman just told us when you say that word in particular, you're bringing all this baggage with you. So you're bringing all this baggage of lynchings, of maimings, of rape, of molestation, all the things that the whites put into that word. Brother, could you read that quote you shared with us in the conference room from 1832? Sure.
What's interesting is that, and while it deals specifically with education, it's more a piece that is basically the piece that, or one of the pillars of education and deculturalization in this country and around the world as far as Europeans are concerned. In 1832, Senator Harry Berry addressed the Virginia House of Delegates, and he stated that we have extinguished every avenue by which light could enter the mind of the black slave. Now, if we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be reduced to the levels of beasts in the field, and we would be safe. Now think about that. Not only does the European does not want you to learn how to read, but if you do learn how to read, or if you put a book in front of you, now I'm not going you won't even open it up. And that's been a prevalent thing with our brothers and sisters in school today. That I can kind of read. I'm in 8th grade, but I'm reading at a 3rd grade education. But if I put a book in front of me, I don't even want to. Don't even want to read it. Yeah.
And that's deep, because if you constantly told that you are a B, that you are worthless, matter of fact, in the movie that's coming out, I think that's one of the things he points out is this character Precious is going to be a high school dropout. So, you have no, not to mention the fact that it's a European education, and it's already a horrible education. But even if you're sending your child to a so-called, the African-centered or, institution, they don't want to learn. Because if they're going to go out here all day and be told they're nothing and they're worthless and they're a B and all they can be is a gangster and shoot them, it destroys something inside of you. And family, this is what we want to get across to you. We talked last week, family, about when we had Brother Joe Ragsdale in, and he talked about the Wall of Sorrows, or the Room of Sorrows, I should say, in his museum, the Slave Holocaust Museum. He talked about all the obituaries, and I've been over there, family. Like I said, I've seen it, all the obituaries on that wall of young sisters and brothers who have been murdered, via black on black violence. But if we were able to really open the books of those stories, each of those stories, and see what happened, what was going on in that person's life, what triggered that. And again, we connect these chains to go back, and we understand based on what the brother just read to us, this is a real quote. Absolutely. Now, people can dispute the Willie Lynch letter all day and say it may not be authentic and da-da-da-da-da. This is a real quote by a real senator. Go out and Google it. Do your own research so you can pull it up. This is a plan, family. It's a plan. You have to understand the whites have a negative birth rate. If you don't know what that means they cannot reproduce between the two of them, the white man and the white female. They cannot produce life. They are having a negative. That's why they are shooting themselves up with fertility drugs. They're coming out with 12 babies in one pot, all these crazy things because they're trying to produce themselves. They understand that they see themselves dwindling and all these colored people around them are shooting through the roof. We having babies. They can't stop us. We having babies like they ain't no tomorrow. So they have to implement another way. They tried it with AIDS. AIDS was not successful enough where it wiped us out in one shot. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? They're trying it with genocide in certain places. We're still producing. So now all they have is to clamp down on our minds. That's what the quote was saying. We distinguish everything else. Now we have to go into the psyche. Now that we have the psyche, they will do anything we want them to do. Anything we want them to do. We are on a program for self-destruction, family. That's one of the things we're trying to convey and teach you here at Children of Southampton every Sunday. You know, and you can go to our website, which is www.ourcause.com, OURKOS.com. And you can hear some of our previous shows that we do. We're bringing this brother. We're going to have this brother back again, if you would like to come back, brother.
Oh, I'd love to.
All right, family, because he has a wealth of information. We were talking before the show, and there were so many different topics we were going into and so many different, issues that are facing us as black people around the world. But we have got to begin to turn the page, family. It's going to be a hard turn. You know how like when you're driving sometimes you almost miss that turn and you make that sharp turn. It's got to be a hard turn, family, in that respect. We can't sugarcoat this any longer. We are running out of time. If all you have to do, I tell people almost every Sunday, is go outside of a high school, black high school, any high school with predominantly black students in this country. Sit outside at 2:30 and watch what comes out that door. And you tell me. It just happened with the brother, I always forget his name. The brother in Chicago, the 16-year-old brother that was killed. Forgive me, I always forget the brother's name. It should be in my mind. But it just happened with him going to school. He couldn't even get out of school without being beat to death right outside the school doors. We are on a program of self-destruction, but we've got to understand that it's not really just black on black. It's something going on behind the scenes. When you pull back that door, you better see what's going on. These whites have decided that they can no longer be on the forefront of wiping. They can't be seen on the forefront doing it because the world is going to come down and say, oh my God, you're committing these atrocities. So what they do is they program us to do it instead. They program us to do it to ourselves. Brother, could you please give your contact information for any of the family who would like to get in contact with you?
Sure. My phone number is 215-473-1040. And my email address is Dr. my name, Farouk Iman, at ymail.com.
That's right, family. And also, I wanted to mention, because Brother Joe Ragsdale, last weekend, we did not mention, he wants anybody out there who has, someone who's died as a result of violence, to send in the obituaries to his museum, because he has that wall. It's a ton of them already, but it's a memorial of sorts as well to those who have been killed, women, sisters or brothers, and you can give them a call at the museum. Their number is 856-427-4262. 856-427-4262. For more information, I'm sure they can provide you with the best address to mail that to, in order to get that information there. And family, again, next week we're going to go into this a lot deeper, because next week we're going to be talking about the psychological effects, because we're laying the groundwork. And this can happen in any. We broke it down. I want you to understand, when we talk about black on black violence, it's not just necessarily from a physical aspect. People think of somebody getting murdered, or somebody getting raped, or somebody being beaten. It can also be verbally. It can be psychologically, which we're going to touch on next week. And then we're going to go into that spirituality, family. We're going to wrap it all up at the end. The fourth show, we're going to be about that black on black spiritual violence, because that's a serious one. But family, we want you to see what's happening here, and it can happen. It doesn't have to happen in this particular process. It doesn't have to be black on black violence happen first and then you have verbal violence. It can happen in different ways. You might have someone who suffered psychological violence, and now they're going out and manifesting that through physical violence on someone else. So it can happen in a different order, but no matter how it happens, we've got to understand, yes, the people who perpetrate these crimes, we do have to shine a spotlight on them and bring them out in front of the community. But we've got to get back to a point where we have a community that says, I'm bringing this person before the community to show the evils that they've done, and let the community decide how this person is going to be dealt with. And then, if anything is left, we ship them off to the white, judicial system to be locked up, whatever. But we've got to come to a point where we are community. We talked about that in the beginning with that song we played. As a matter of fact, I wasn't going to go out with it, but I'm going to go out with it again because it's such a powerful song. We played that in the beginning, talking about the community that we used to be. And we got to get back to a point where, we feel safe in our communities again, family. We got to get back to a point where we feel comfortable letting our children play outside. And we're not there yet. So, family, hang in there with us. Go to our website, www.ourcause.com, where you can get more information about our shows and what we're trying to put forward, what we're trying to do. Also, family, make sure that, in December, we're going to be going down to Maryland to see the irritated genius of Southeast. He's going to be talking about black degeneracy versus black nationalism. And it's important we talk about this because it goes into this black, degenerate movement out here that's putting out some poison in the name of nationalism, in the name of liberation. There's a lot of them out there. We ain't going to put them all out right now. But come on out and you'll hear more about it. We're taking a family down there. If you're interested in riding along with us, it's $40. And we'll be leaving out of Philadelphia, returning to Philadelphia. And give us a call, 215-990-8672. 215-990-8672. That's December 12th if you're interested. Hotep family, and we love you, and we see you on the other side.
Back in the day, we used to sit right down and eat together. We would discuss current issues and calm up stormy weather. Daddy's work was his hassle. Mama made home a castle. They would protect us and make sure nothing would ever happen. Things were so simple then. Your neighbors were like in the community. Showed unity on my folks. I could depend, but it ain't like that anymore. It ain't like that. No, no, said it ain't like that anymore. Whoa, no, said it ain't like that anymore. No, no, it ain't like that anymore. It ain't like that. No, no.
Judge Doris Smith Ribner. She joins me at my side right now. The election of 2009 is now behind us.